What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tegan, and I'm really excited. As my last video talked about, we had the Battle of the Bay this last weekend in Berkeley, California. We had about 130 people getting together to play Lorcana on a Saturday. Long day, 8 rounds of Swiss, followed by a top cut, and eight people making top cut, and 3 rounds then in the top cut. Ed ended up taking down the tournament, which is, I think, no surprise to a lot of people who have seen Ed compete. But today I wanted to bring on somebody else who played this weekend. And today I have with me Marilyn. Let me turn on your camera. Welcome, Marilyn. Welcome to the channel. I'm really excited to have you on. Tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got into Lorcana, where you're from, where you play on a regular basis.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Obviously, I'm a Disney lover, Mickey shirt, Mickey. So I definitely came into Lorcana due to the love of Disney. If they put some Mickey on something, I'm gonna buy it. So that was kind of the motivating factor. I'm from NorCal. I play at Weekend Wizards in Lodi. That's my main LGS, and play at a few other ones, but that one's just the closest to home, so it's the one we play the most at. And it is my first TCG. I did play previously, quite a few years ago, a different card game, but I wouldn't say that it was a TCG because it had dice involved.
Okay.
But I didn't have like the greatest experience with that game. So I have not, after that, I did not play anything until Lorcana now.
Awesome. Uh, that's really great. I love playing at the local level. I play at like 3 different leagues every week. I just can't get enough of the game, and I know there's a lot of people like me. What's your home store like? Weekend Wizards, is it pretty big? Is it kind of a small hole in the wall? How many people do you have every week?
It's pretty small. They just opened up, like they haven't even been open for a year. So we found them because we were just it was during Floodborne era, so product was so hard to find. That's when we started getting the game. I found 2 starter decks at Best Buy and grabbed them off the shelf. We started playing at home and we got hooked, and but then trying to find product after that and
Oh,
not wanting to
it was
pay like
so hard.
yeah, and not wanting to play like scalper prices because we did not want to do that, and we didn't know if we were going to be like invested into this, my husband and I. So we just went through our whole town, like store to store, like, do you guys carry Lorcana? Do you guys carry Lorcana? And it was another trading card game store that was like, you know what, you should check out Weekend Wizards.
Mm.
And so they gave us the address, we hunted it down. They were closed, and because they open at 5, and so we were looking, we were like in the window like this, like looking, and we're like, we see Lorcana on the shelf, and so we came back at 5, and we've been that's been our home store since then. They started, it was just me, my husband, and one other person playing Lorcana, and now we get a good amount of people. I mean, I think the last time are 15, so for being a pretty small store, it's pretty good.
That's awesome. That's really great. Yeah, I know some leagues have a hard time getting 8 people to fire. My local league is usually anywhere from like 12 to 20, which is, plenty of people. Like, it's really great. We have a very active community here in the Bay Area. I play at Games of Berkeley. That's kind of my home store. I'm the tournament organizer for them. I also play at Victory Point Cafe, which is another little store here. Um, awesome. Let's talk a little bit about, Lorcana in general and what your experience has playing. You shared with me that you've played at a DLC before. What has it been like kind of diving in head first and going and competing at a big regional with 2,000 people competing, playing the game for less than a year?
Well, it was an experience. I didn't want to go on the competitive level. Like, I didn't want to get a competitor badge. And when my husband and I and our friends were trying to get the badges, I wasn't able to check out. And so they sold out. And inside I was kind of like, yes, because I was so nervous. I did not want, I was like, I'm going to pay to lose. Like, I just play at the LGS and I play at League and I play like a puppy deck sometimes. Like I have my meta deck, but I'm just playing for fun. But I got on the wait list, and like a week before I was able to get off the wait list and get a competitor badge. And it really sunk in. I was like, I'm gonna go compete. Like my husband, are really good friends. They've all been testing, and I've just been messing around. And so I was like, well, I'm just gonna try my best. And so that was a really nerve wracking experience, but everybody was great. Every opponent was great. I didn't do the best. I think I ended up like in the 600 range, but I only got 102 the whole day, and I started off really
There you go.
strong. I did two 2-0s, a 1-1, and then an 0-2, and then the rest I think were 1-1s. So I didn't lose all day, so that was fun.
That's amazing. That's really great. I my first one was Chicago. And Chicago was only 1K instead of 2K. I did not play well. I played RP. Of course, Bucky was in his prime during Ursula's return, and I played all 9 rounds, and I played Bucky 5 of my 9 rounds.
Gosh.
It was it was miserable. It was like
Yeah.
my worst experience playing the game I think I've ever had. I was kind of playing a little bit of a spicy RP list. I was playing Li Sheng from Ursula
Ooh.
Return, which the 3 drop that like makes your characters that have 4 or more strength quest for more. So I was
Mhm.
trying to play a little bit more of an aggressive version of the deck, but still running a lot of the pieces that people were familiar with, the Flynn Sisu line, etc. So it was kind of fun. I played my kind of opening curve a lot of the time was a 1 drop. I only played the 4 1 drops. That was kind of when No I'm Not was kind of advocating for the 4 1 drops. So I think I was playing like Chernobog's followers, and that was it. Um, and then Flynn, and then Sisu, and then Li Sheng, and then hopefully another 1 drop if I had found one. And then Quest Sisu for 3.
Mhm.
Because they would have enough cards in their hand that I would have 4. And that was just a really fast start to the game, usually. Of course, people were not as teched against Diablo as they are now.
Yeah.
People didn't quite understand how powerful Diablo is, but I think now it wouldn't be quite as good because of how people are teched against Flynn and Diablo, which we'll talk about in a minute when we get to your list.
Yeah, my only O2 in Vegas was a discard, which I was not expecting to see because it was after the Bucky ban. And
Yeah.
so I was like, I should be in the clear. And but as we saw with Zan, discard was not gone, and that was my fourth match was a discard. He just stomped me into the ground, and I
Mm,
was just like, huh, I did not expect that.
yep. It kind of came out of nowhere. I caught a little bit of wind of it on Friday because Zan and other people were playing Emerald Steel in the competitive constructed on
Mhm.
Friday. And so for people that were like really paying attention, there was like, huh, Zan and Ed and like all these other people are on green steel. Like,
Yeah,
what is going on?
yeah,
Um, yeah, really interesting. Vegas was really fun. I played in Vegas as well. I played Blue Red, and finished in 336th place. Was really
awesome.
really happy about that.
Yeah.
Um, Talk to me a little bit about like did you do any testing ahead of Las Vegas, or I like to play a lot of fun decks too, and it's hard to balance the like I'm playing my fun brew deck that I want to play versus the deck that I should be practicing for this upcoming major tournament. I think that kind of bit me a little bit in the butt for Seattle. I played in Seattle too, and um, I really wanted to make the Queen Disguised Peddler and Mirabelle work last set, and I spent a lot of time working on it. It kind of got there right at the very end. I kind of figured out the recipe. I did very well in a side event in Seattle playing it, but talk to me a little bit about that. Like, how do you kind of balance playing the meta deck versus your fun decks?
It's been hard because when we started playing like in the Floodborne era, I just looked up like what are good decks to play, and Ruby Amethyst was very popular. So we were able to kind of piece it together from what we were buying, and I just started playing it. So I got comfortable with Ruby Amethyst, but it has gone through quite different iterations. The Flynn and Sisu package was a big change. When that happened, I did not want to play anymore because I was like, oh, I don't like the Flynn
Mm,
Sisu thing. So it kind of took a little bit of the back burner when we were going to like set champs or things like that. I was like, okay, I got to go back to Ruby Amethyst because I know that's my good deck. But I mean, I've been trying to make brooms and the puppies work for so long. So it is hard because my husband and my competitive friends, they were grinding hard for Vegas. They were like this, that, and I was like just messing around. And I was like, I just have an attendee badge. But like I said, it was then 1 week later when I did have when I did get off the wait list, I was like, oh no, I have to go back to Ruby Amethyst. And I do like to kind of tweak decks to my liking, which like I normally run 61 cards,
mm.
which is like everybody's like, do not do that. Or I'll run a lot of incubables or like just different things that it's like this is how I like to play. I run one card called Elsa's Ice Palace, which everybody is it usually is like, what does that even do? But I just won't give it up. It saved me so many times. It saved me in Vegas. I love that card, and now it's going to be a promo for nationals. So maybe I was onto something.
Yeah, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. I have this belief that, like, cards are, like, rare or legendary for a reason. Like, there
Right.
has to be a use case for this
Yeah.
card, right? Otherwise, like, it would just be too powerful, and so I don't know. I sometimes think that way too. Yeah, the Elsa Ice Palace is a really interesting card, and we can talk about it in a minute when we get to your list. You're one of the people that kind of came a little bit of a distance to come to Battle of the Bay. Coming from Lodi, it's what? It's like a hour and a half, 2 hour drive or so.
Yeah, about an hour and a half without traffic, a little bit longer with traffic.
So talk to me a little bit about your experience at Battle of the Bay. Like, when did you find out about it? What made you kind of pull the trigger to sign up?
I can't even remember how we found out about it. I think someone just posted it and was like, "Hey, there's something going on here." And it was pretty small at the time when we bought our tickets. And so we were just looking, oh, it's after set champs. It's like we weren't going to make it to Seattle. So I was like, what's something, a little tournament, we'd get to practice the new set maybe. And so we thought it was going to be a little bit smaller than what it ended up being. So it was almost kind of like, oh, just like another set champs, get to go. And, so, but we were really excited to kind of do something. And I do get like major FOMO from seeing all these events on the other side of the US that we don't get to go to. And so I was like, if this is even anything remotely like that, we would love to come and do it because we just can't make it to all these things.
So you decided to play Ruby Amethyst, and we actually put you on stream because you were doing quite well. You were kind of talking about how you didn't do well in Vegas, but you did quite well at Battle of the Bay. And we had the opportunity to put you up on the stream against Megan. Megan is one of my locals from my local event. She plays Steel Song. She's been working really hard at that deck and getting better and better. She was like a top 4 for our set champs at Games of Berkeley. Um, so what was it like being featured on stream, and playing a game on stream?
I was super nervous, and I think, seeing that Megan, because initially when we saw the paper, I was like, "We're gonna go on stream," and she was like, "No," and I was like, "Yeah, maybe we shouldn't," but then I was like, "No, we should do it, like, this may be my only shot. If I never make it to another DLC, if I never make it anywhere, like, this may be my only shot, um, at being on stream," and someone, I knew it was gonna open up to, like, criticism on my deck, and I'm like, "Maybe I'll never get to watch it again," but we should do it. It's a one, I drove an hour and a half here. Let's do it. And someone else that was standing next to us, I think they were going to play there. They encouraged us. They were like, "You should go. You should go." And so with all the hype, we were like, "Let's go." And so I'm really, really glad we did it. It was fun.
Awesome. I'm so glad that people around you were supportive. I was actually picking most of the feature matches. And so, I would make the pairings on Melee and then kind of like look through, and I had taken a look at deck lists for a lot of people. And of course, I know a lot of the competitors here in the Bay Area and kind of knew what they were playing. Um, and I really wanted to feature not just meta decks, but people that were kind of making their decks their own, people who were running very spicy lists. But it's also really important to me to feature diversity, right? Like we're both minorities who play this game, and I think it can be really intimidating when you're going to kind of these bigger spaces and playing with these people that have been playing card games for decades, right, and have all this experience. And you and I, in our first year of playing a TCG, we're trying to catch up. Um, and so, I don't know, I make mistakes all the time. I like, untap my stuff after I draw, when it's supposed to be like ready, set, draw. I still don't have those like memories. And I know that when you put yourself on stream, you are open yourself up to criticism, but I think you're also really showing other people that it's okay for like other women to be playing this game. And I don't know, I was really happy that I was able to put a match with two women playing each other, and both of you were doing very well. Like you were at table 14, like that was awesome, right, in the top kind of 30 people of this 130 person tournament. um I don't know. I'm grateful that you decided to take the risk and jump on stream. You talked a little bit about on Twitter. I think it was Twitter or maybe Instagram, about how like uh, by a little bit into it, you and Megan were just kind of laughing and having a great time, getting to know each other. And talk to me a little bit about that. Like, what was it like, kind of getting to meet another woman who was doing very well at the top tables, and kind of getting to know each other over this feature match?
It was really, really nice. I haven't had very any negative experiences playing Disney Lorcana. I did have one kind of interesting experience. So when at DLC Vegas, when it was round three, I because I had two owed my first two matches, I was up in like the higher tables. And so when I got there, because I was meeting with my friends and my husband in one spot, and then we would split up when we got our matches. When I got there, I was like the last to be seated on the table, and I had the other gentlemen that were sitting at the table. They were like, "Oh wow, like good job, like you're up here." And it kind of took me aback
Mm.
because I had never ever experienced like it almost felt like a pat on the head kind of thing,
Yeah,
like
that
good
feels kind of
job.
gross.
Yeah, and I was like, but that really drove me. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna win this match, and we won one, and we fought that match. That match was. I talked to my opponent afterwards. We were both fighting to win that match. So it was the total opposite with Megan. Like getting to go up there, and we were both super nervous, and we were like, we just got to do our best. We got to, and she was so sweet, and I do like I talk out all my turns. I do the ready, set, draw. I like literally talk the whole time I'm playing. And Megan was pretty similar. And I was like, I like to see that. I like to see someone that looks like they're enjoying the game, not like they just want to stop me.
I think that's really helpful to make the game approachable to new players, right? To
Mhm.
narrate your plays. Like you're kind of supposed to do that anyway, but a
Right.
lot of people don't, right? A lot of people have just gotten in the habit of playing very quietly and just kind of doing whatever. Um, I don't know. I was playing somewhere. I can't remember where it was. It might have been in Seattle, actually, like in a competitive side event. And this person like played a crab and then like challenged my character, and I was like, okay, so 2 damage, and he was like, well, it's crab, and I was like, well, you didn't say anything about what
Right.
you were doing with crab's ability, and he's like, well, I thought it was obvious, and I was like, well, it may not be to a lot of people.
Mhm.
So narrating your plays makes a lot of sense, and I'm trying to get better about that myself. Trying to be really clear about the plays that I'm making, because it matters too, right? Like in thinking about what are mandatory triggers versus um, uh, not mandatory triggers. I was playing against a friend, just a friendly, and he had a crab out on the board, and I killed his crab, and I made sure to kill his other character first, because then his crab has to assign challenger to something,
Right.
and he had a queen's castle. And so he had to assign challenger to one of my characters, and then I could challenge his castle,
Oh, wow.
and do damage to his castle. And you know, eh, you only kind of learn some of those plays by like really reading the cards and really understanding that even if you have no other characters on board, you need to assign challenger for crab because it could be relevant in a
Right.
situation like that. And so I really admire players that are very clear in the plays that they're doing. Um, Something else that you said kind of stuck out to me, that like everyone around you was really supportive, and I think that's one of the things that I love about Lorcana is like, yeah, there are some jerks in Lorcana, there's jerks everywhere, but by and large the people that I've met in this community, the people that I've played, have been really really wonderful people, and have been really, really welcoming, and are people who are just really down to earth, right? The lab guys are like some of the nicest guys you'll ever
Mhm.
meet. They're really humble. They're really just like easy to talk to. Even though people might look up to them as like these titans of the game, and they're very important and very what. They're just normal guys who enjoy a Disney card game just as much as any of us, right? And so I really appreciate that. Even Ed, I got the opportunity to play Ed at a set championship. It was the second time I had ever made a top 8 for a set championship. It was in the same day as I had made my first top 8 for a set championship, and it was during Ursula Returns, and it was the weekend after Dallas.
Oh.
So Ed had just come back from winning Dallas, and I'm playing his list. I'm playing RP. I'm sitting down across from him to play RP against him. I had made one tweak, I think. I had dropped a copy of Flynn to play a copy of Tremaine. Was the
Mhm.
only list I had, or the change I had made from his list. And so I'm sitting across from what feels like the RP master. And I heard you talk to Spessy and with Megan, and you were kind of talking about that experience of playing Ed and kind of shaking in your boots a little bit. Um, uh, but Ed is he's a really nice guy. Ultimately, like he's very intimidating, but he's also just very sweet. Um, and after I played him, I was talking to him of like, oh man, I was just glad to get one game off of you. It was a best of 3. I got him on the draw in game 1. And I just was like protecting my rabbit and bouncing it back and forth and really making it so that he couldn't kill my rabbit. And I talked to him afterwards. I was like, oh man, I was just really glad that I could get that game off of you, honestly. And he's like, oh man, you did a great job protecting your rabbit. It was really annoying. You were really annoying. And so even just that lightness of being like, you did a great job, like you played a really really good game and you got me. Somebody like that, as good as Ed is at this game, he's able to kind of like laugh at a game and kind of treat his opponent with respect, even though he knows like I don't have anywhere near the skill he has at this game. What was it like for you playing Ed and sitting down across from the eventual champion of the event? I know he was your only O2 in the entire day.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was nerve-wracking. I recognized the name on Melly the second I saw the match. I like to tune into the DLCs and keep track on Melly of what time. So the second I saw the name, I was like shaking. I was like, I don't want to play anymore. This is gonna demoralize me. He's gonna like stomp me to, and I'm playing red purple. And I'm like, and he's way better at red purple than I am. I have like a janky list that I put together. I'm not running the Flins or the Sisus or anything. And I'm like, I'm about to get stomped. But he was really nice. I mean, you can see I learned so much from him. I was playing it back in my head, he O2'd me. And I, even afterwards, when I was telling my friends, I was like, you see that little piece of paper on the ground? Imagine that's me, and imagine he's just stomping me into the ground because he just ran circles on me. He just very masterful. He drew. I don't know how he always had so many cards on me. Just it was just I was like, there's no way you have that many cards in hand at all time. But he's just a pro at what he does. And then it was just really, really great to see because I kind of can see why he was doing the things he did. I mean, playing a goat, and I had a library out. He plays a goat. I think he just played a little broom, bounces it, and smacks the goat and the fox into my location, banishes location. And here I thought I was being smart playing the library because it's one more health
Mm.
than the castle. But he had it all figured out. So it was really great. And he was super, super nice. Even at the end when we were doing the raffles, he was with the group that was sitting next to me. And one of the guys was like, oh, have you met Marilyn? So and so. And he was like, yeah, I played her today. And I was like, you remember me? You remember crushing me? So he was really, really sweet. I was glad. It was a good experience.
We were kind of talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but um, I learn a lot when I watch Ed play. He's so still, and I think he has this ability. We talk about it with sports, right? Where like there are some players that just have the ability to slow the game down and they're able to play the game at a different level because the game's not happening so fast around them, right?
Mhm.
At my first DLC, like I felt like the games were over like that, right? Like they were just a blur. I don't even remember what happened in most of the games. But I feel like Ed has this ability to like just slow the game down. He has this way that he's just so calm and his demeanor is just so peaceful at the table. He
Mhm.
just sits there, he crosses his arms, and he just watches you. I'm there shuffling my cards, like my knee is bouncing, my ADHD is out of control. I'm looking everywhere, and he's just completely still, so focused, watching your every play, watching your every move, and thinking about how he's going to respond to it. Um, I truly think like he plays the game on a different level compared to
Mhm.
to a lot of people, and certainly me. Um, yeah, let's talk about your list. I'd love to dive into your list a little bit. You made some interesting choices with your list, and I wanted to talk about them in part because your list actually looks pretty similar to a list I was testing a bit last set, early in the set. Um, you're playing Lumiere, and that's a card that we haven't seen get a lot of play. And you're not running the Flynn Sisu package. You said earlier that like you weren't really running that package. You're running 2 copies of Lumiere. You're running a full 4 crabs, which I think is kind of surprising. A lot of people in the mirror only want to run 2, maybe if they're running crabs. You're also running the 3 Peter Pan Shadow Finder, the 4 Genies, 3 Elsa, 2 Tremaines, only 1 Madame Medusa, which I think will kind of catch some people's eyes. A lot of people run 2 or even 3 Madame Medusas, thinking that card is really, really good. 2 of the new Maui Half Shark, 4 copies of Brawl, 4 copies of Friends on the Other Side, 3 copies of Bree Prep. You're not running Queen's Castle. You're running the library, and you're running 1 copy of Elsa's Ice Palace. Talk to me a little bit about your list. Why did you make some of those choices?
Well, kind of getting ready and seeing what a set six was bringing. I had kind of the same idea everybody else did. Decks were going to become faster. I thought that red blue was going to become faster. Just all the decks that we were seeing, aggro was going to increase. It had already started becoming pretty prevalent. I mean, we've seen aggro lists make it until like day 2 of the DLCs, which everybody's just been surprised. But I just thought everything was going to go faster. And so previously I was running like the Flynn Sisu package, but I had an idea. I was like, I should cook something on the side because it's going to go too fast. And I don't think the Flynn and the Sisu can catch up, especially because everybody was so after Diablo. And so if they were gonna have the mechanics to get rid of Diablo, they're gonna have the mechanics to get rid of Flynn. Flynn will be the first to go,
Mhm.
and then you can't depend on that 3 lore gain. I also really liked Maui Shark. So when I saw him revealed, I was like, I think I can fit him in. And everybody was saying he might not have a place in like Ruby Amethyst, but I was like, I think he does if the build's a little faster. So I was trying that out. Same with Elsa's Ice Palace. Elsa's Ice Palace usually brings a surprise to people because it'll freeze their character until the Ice Palace is exerted. So
Mm.
especially if you get that out in the beginning or even late game in DLC Vegas, my opponent who was playing Ruby, Ruby Ruby Sapphire, yes. He had a Tomato on board and I froze it. He had nothing else to play. He just had items, so he couldn't get that Tamatoa quest on me, and that's
Mm.
what won me the game. We were both at 19 and he couldn't do it. And the Elsa's Ice Palace brings one lore. So it took me to 20. So it is kind of an interesting mechanic. And because Elsa's Ice Palace freezes them, even if you get rid of it on your turn, the character will stay exerted for the rest of the turn. So it's not like they re-ready.
Mm.
So that was something. And then too, with so many big bodies like Simba, all I feel like Madame Medusa is just not getting the utility it used to be. With Hidden Cove, it's just everybody's getting a little bit smarter. They're not leaving her in leaving their characters in Medusa range.
I've been kind of noticing that as well, that like Medusa has felt worse to me when I've been playing it
Mhm.
recently. I played a lot of red blue last set, like a ton of red blue. And there were so many times that I almost considered dropping her from the list entirely,
Yeah,
because she just felt so bad. Like I would be ramping and these boards would be going so wide, and she only kills one thing when she comes down.
right.
And it just felt too slow. It just felt too slow. I would rather be playing, something earlier. Even Maui is like inkable, and then it's gonna, 2 for 1 the board and essentially do the same thing. Um I still ended up playing Medusa. I think I played 2 in Vegas because sometimes you just need to banish a character that is ready, and if you don't have ways to do that, you do end up kind of screwed. But, I agree with that. I think she's falling off a bit. Um, I think people are getting a little bit smarter. Cove is seeing just a ton of play, not only in Emerald Steel, but also like, I think the Emerald Amber list sometimes will run that. Even the more aggressive list is just a way to try to protect your characters. And so, um, the kind of thing that this deck has working against it that Ruby Sapphire doesn't have is Ruby Sapphire has the ice block, right? Like we can just ice block something and still get value out of Medusa. But
Mhm.
this deck doesn't have that benefit. And so there are times that Medusa is just a dead card in your hand, and that doesn't feel very good. And you play her, and she's a 4/4 body, so like she's a decent body, but she only quests for 1, and so she's not even putting a lot of lore pressure on. Ed was playing 2 copies of the big Sisu, bringing that
Mhm.
back from his Dallas list, which has some of those same problems of being a strength based removal and not having any way to lower strength, but at least it quests for 3. And if you have the Sisu down, you can shift on top of the Sisu and still kind of get that tempo on 6 and be able to quest hard, versus Medusa only questing for 1.
Yeah.
Um,
In
so I,
in in our first game, he hit me with the Sisu on turn 6, but because I had Lumiere, it only got rid of Lumiere.
mm,
I think I had Peter Pan, Shadow, and Genie, or some kind of variation of that, but it only took care of Lumiere, so he was a real MVP. That
I think that's a really good point, right? Like having a Lumiere on the field kind of just insulates you, right? Like if they have a Medusa, well, now they have to kill your Lumiere before they can use the Medusa to kill something, or brawl, certainly, right? Like they have to brawl your Lumiere before they can brawl your rabbit. And so it kind of insulates your rabbit a little bit. And I was always really impressed with that. Last set I was playing it, and I don't think this is the best one drop. I think it definitely struggles into steel. But I was playing Rafiki
Mhm.
because Rafiki has that challenger +3, and if you go Rafiki on 1, Lumiere on 2, you can kill a Daisy.
Right.
And because it gives that extra strength to your Rafiki, and so I think Lumiere is worth potentially revisiting in these kind of non-Sisu, non-Flynn packages. So I think that was a really good meta call here to add the Lumiere.
Yeah, and since the Battle of the Bay was on Saturday, there was a locals not too far from us, maybe like half an hour hobby quest in Elk Grove. They do their league on Friday, so we frequent it at times. So I figured I was going to take this kind of variation of a list. With actually, I wasn't running. I was trying to see if the Rafiki would fit in there, and see if maybe my ideas that the lists were getting faster, if it was the case or if it wasn't. And yeah, when we got there, I faced hyper aggro, green purple, yellow purple, all night. So I was like, everybody is much faster, and even the decks that made it into top cut just at league, they were just faster iterations of the deck. So I knew I needed something that was going to give me a little bit of an edge and make my guys a little stronger. Because I mean, hitting a broom or a Chernabog by itself into something doesn't feel good. But sometimes when you hit them with that Lumiere, it feels a little bit better.
Well, and it seems like crab is a part of that strategy too, of like allowing you to trade your brooms up into these bigger bodies, to kind of help clear the field earlier and make you a little bit less dependent on your like Medusas to try to like regain tempo later in the game.
Right.
You made one play on stream that I thought was really impressive, and it actually took Spessy by surprise, so much so that like Spessy thought you were breaking the rules and that we needed to have a judge call. And that was the Peter Pan Shadow Finder into Genie line, that you used against Megan. Playing Peter Pan Shadow Finder on 3, a 2/3 rush evasive. That gives your other evasive characters rush, and so you were able to play the Genie, bring it down, crash into something, clean up a board, and immediately exert that Genie, who then is probably still going to stick around to be able to quest next turn because it's evasive. Um, was that an intentional thing that you kind of thought about, running 3 Peter Pan Shadow Finder versus I think a lot of decks have run 2? Um, Talk to me a little bit about that interaction.
Yeah, it was intentional. I I once I saw Genie, I knew that I was probably going to swap Genie out for Rabbit or kind of do some kind of mix of them. But I just liked the pressure that Genie gave because he's an evasive and he quests for 2, and he's got that one extra health on him that the Rabbit doesn't. I thought in a faster paced meta, he may come more in handy. And then when I realized that, well, he could take out a Diablo if I have Peter Pan Shadow Finder on the board, I was like, okay, so now he's like triple useful. Where I used to run the Peter Pan Shadow in my older list because
Mhm.
I like that he gave Maui evasive, and I
And
could take out,
Fox.
yeah, Fox and evasive. You could take out a Surfer Mini, so that worked for me previously. Not so useful now, but giving Genie or even Maui Shark that rush, I thought was something good to try out and see if it would work, and it worked out great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love the Peter Pan Shadow Finder list. I had been brewing a Emerald Amethyst list early in, um was it early? It was maybe late set 4, that was running Isabella, um as that kind of evasive big questing threat to come down. But sometimes she felt a little slow because you had to play her and not really get any value the turn you play her. But if you played Peter Pan Shadowfinder before, she could come down with Rush, hit something, stick around as a 3/4 on board with evasive, and just kind of really wreak havoc on a board.
Mhm.
So I've been impressed with that Peter Pan Shadowfinder card for quite a while. I think it wasn't as good when you don't have something good to pair with it and kind of get that benefit. I would rather play that 4 cost uninkable, Peter Pan Shadow so that you can really quest harder. But the ability of being able to give your other evasive characters rush, seems pretty good. Did
Yeah.
you miss Rabbit at all? Cutting Rabbit?
I did not miss Rabbit. I don't know why. I've always been a Rabbit hater, I guess,
Oh,
because
wow. Okay.
I just feel like I've always, like, even when I was cooking my deck for Vegas, I wanted Rabbit out, and everybody told me, "Don't do that. It's a mistake." He just always seemed that he was always the number one target. Rabbit was down. They were going to brawl him. They were going to take him out. And yeah, I got the card when he came in and the card when he came out. I just didn't see the utility that everybody seemed to. Maybe it was just my skill level. I didn't know. But to me, the genie has just been so much more useful.
Yeah.
And I value the two lore compared to the rabbit. Even sometimes I wanted to like smack the rabbit into something, to get me that edge in a game, and I just felt like I was so hesitant because of the 3 health. I'm like, I'm gonna lose them and all this stuff. So the genie's a little bit bigger. That 4 makes a difference. I mean, you can smack them into something that I was running him into is like Calhoun, and he survives the Calhoun hit. So that was I saw Calhoun the
There's
whole
so
time I
many
got
Calhoun.
away. Yeah. And so it felt good they weren't expecting it. I had Peter Pan on board. I drew the genie smacked into the Calhoun. I think they were thinking, well, she's not going to smack her Peter Pan to my Calhoun because they would hold. And I'm like, well, no, but I'll hit the genie into it because I'll survive the hit. So I do much more prefer the genie than rabbit.
That's really interesting. I'm gonna have to play around with RP a little bit. I haven't really revisited the deck. I did play a little bit of the burn version of the deck that kind of got popularized in Seattle. That list was really fun to play. It's pretty fun to tap 3 chromacons and draw 3 cards. um, I had a really fun game at a box tournament where I was playing against Sapphire Steel, and he just wasn't playing anything to the board. He just was playing all of his items. He was playing workshops, like just building a big, big, big board state, and then he like would play Tamatoa and try to just get the one big quest in.
Yeah.
But I was playing this like burn list. It was kind of wild. Like neither of us had much board state. We just were like playing solitaire. It was really fun. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was really nice to catch up with you and learn a little bit more about your journey in Lorcana and see your list and talk to you about your list. I think there's a couple of things in here to definitely test with and try to apply. I love the Lumiere. I want to get back and try to test that again and get some reps into it. It's just so sneaky.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't expect it. I don't think anybody was expecting the Lumiere.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Are you going to nationals? Are you going to try to get down there?
I'm gonna try my best. Yeah, I actually we booked our hotel a while back when they made the announcement, and we were thinking, if it mirrors the EU, then it'll be about this time. So we're gonna try our best to get a ticket. And if I can't make it into I think the Battle of the Bay, making 12th place really gave me a confidence boost because I wanted to just go as a spectator. But now I think, could I possibly have a shot at the LCQ? So I
I think
think I'm
you should
gonna
100% go to
yeah,
LCQ. Like
I'm
12th
gonna give it a
place
try.
against that field in a field that had Ed and other continental qualifiers. Like Judy played in that field as well, and she's qualified for continentals. So if you can take 12th in the Battle of the Bay, I think you should definitely be playing in LCQ. I know I'm gonna try to do LCQ and see if I can get in. I'm trying to get my wife to too. My wife is an aggro player, and she doesn't always like the hyper competitive, but I'm like, baby, all you need to do is win 5 die rolls. Like all you need is 5 die rolls.
Yeah,
um and you never know what can happen, right?
right.
Somebody can brick, and if you go first twice, like going fast with hyper aggro, like there's a good chance you got a good chance. So we're gonna definitely be there. It's my wife's birthday weekend is that weekend, and so we were already planning on going down to the parks. We're annual pass holders, so we're down at the parks on a regular basis. We also have the Disney Vacation Club, and so we're actually staying at the Disneyland Hotel
Awesome.
in the Discovery Tower. So that's going to be really cool, being on site in the hotel. And if nothing else, we'll do attendee passes. I'm really glad that the attendee passes for North America seem like you're going to have access for the entire weekend and not
Right.
just a 4-hour stretch. So I'm going to go play a ton of side events and try to, I don't know, I'm sure there's going to be a prize wall and hopefully more ways to get more Baymaxes vouchers so I can have a place
Right.
at Baymax. That's my goal. And I'm like, baby, I don't care if you just want to hang out at the resort. I need you to come redeem your vouchers so that we can get a place at a Baymax. Um, all right. Well, I will see you at North American Continentals. We'll see you very, very soon. It's coming up very, very fast. Paris is like
Mhm.
next week, it feels like, and very, very soon we'll be at Disneyland playing Lorcana, playing it, what in my opinion is one of the best games in the world at the Disney parks. So I'm super excited, and I will see you there.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to seeing all of us up out of the bay there.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Take care.